John's from the US.
Peter's from the UK.
John lives in Krakow.
Peter lives in Warsaw.
We love Poland.
But we're not Polish. We're
Ish. Welcome to Polish, the podcast for all lovers of Poland. Expats, ex-expats, expats,
shush, Peter. And hello, listeners. I'm John, the one who helps keep this whole thing on track. Today, either Peter or I have gone either on holiday or are caught up with work madness. Surprise, right? This isn't our main job. So we're going to bring you a selection of wonderful clips that just failed to make the cut.
And some of these clips really deserved better treatment than being cruelly discarded on a cold concrete cutting room floor.
So in this episode, which we are calling a special episode, in the same way that Frankenstein's monster was a special human, listen out for some of Peter's flights of fancy.
And some of John's words of wisdom.
With a few bloopers thrown in for good measure.
Okay, John, let's roll audio.
Let's do it.
Hello and welcome. This is the Polish podcast, episode 1. And as you might have heard from the intro, I'm Peter. So that means that you are...
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Wait, what are you...
Right.
Oh, Peter, you're asking me...
Who you are?
Okay. See, this is where I'm confused. Hold on. Sorry. You have, is there a script we follow, or we're just winging it?
We're winging it. We're literally winging it. This is just you and me chatting.
Hey. And I didn't follow. You said, and you are?
We'll try that again. We'll see how the next one comes out. Now, I want to talk about something, John, that's very dear to every Pole's heart, and that is Pope John Paul II. What can be said about Pope John Paul II that hasn't already been said? You know, I was just trying to do a little bit of research and thinking, where do I come across this Pope most? And that's usually when I'm driving around or walking around towns and cities. And I uncovered that there are. Oh, well, maybe ask you, how many do you think? How many streets are named after Pope John Paul II in Poland?
Oh, geez. I don't know. A couple hundred.
How many?
Let's say a couple hundred.
Couple of hundred? You're out by a factor of almost a quarter. Or is that 400%?
Oh, my goodness.
It's 684.
How many, say again?
Sorry, just 684.
684. My God.
Yeah. And that's streets. That doesn't include all the sort of schools, roundabouts, tunnels, bridges, squares, gymnasiums. To do a little bit of maths on that, and I'm going to pluck a figure out of the air. But I wouldn't be surprised if if you're in a street in Poland or in a Polish city, you probably need to turn about 6 corners before you hit a John Paul II something.
So we should at some point make a game about that, huh? At the end of the week, next week, see how many John Paul streets we can pass.
Yeah, what a game! What an interactive game! We can get the listeners involved in that. That would be fun. I mean, anyone obviously landing at Krakow Airport, they'll score a point.
Yeah, right.
There's a load of schools, obviously. What about shopping malls? It's probably the last thing that he's got his name on. Probably none of those.
Do you know any shopping malls?
I know shopping malls, but I don't know any John Paul II shopping malls.
Oh, okay.
It's a little bit too commercial, isn't it, for him? He's more of I put him down as more of a sort of a hospital park kind of university kind of guy.
Okay.
Football pitches,
bless him.
Airports. Yeah.
Bless him indeed.
But there's a tradition here for naming, I suppose it's a global thing as well, naming airports after people. So I think he's landed on a good one, if you pardon the pun, with Krakow.
Very good.
Chopin got Warsaw, which is rather nice. Copernicus got Wrocław.
Let's see here. I'm going to look through. What else can you, what other ones can you mention, Peter?
I'm going to go, so I don't want this to be a Warsaw and Krakow-centric pod, so I'm going to move over to my favourite, so I'm going to move over to the centre of the country in Łódź Airport. There's the name of Władysław Remont.
Okay.
Nobel Prize winning author.
Okay.
Wasn't previously aware of him until I started looking at airport naming conventions in Poland like 2 days ago. A lot of streets named after him as well. I know there's one in Krakow. We were walking up that one, and my wife was talking to me about it, and I thought, Remont? Does that mean that everyone's renovating their apartments in this street? There's a lot of scaffolding and skips, that's for sure. You call them
And
skips? You call them dumpsters?
dumpsters, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in British, you said?
We say skips.
3 in 10.
You ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
I want you to name 3 of the top 10 products by volume sold in Żabka last year.
Oh, by volume. Maybe the gas water. Oh my gosh. I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay, let's say that one didn't work.
No,
I don't want to have a failure.
your questions are always so weirdly specific.
Okay, I'll ask you something a bit
volume?
more. Okay, yeah, you're right.
You mean like liquids in the container?
No, by volume in retail terms means how many were sold. By number.
Okay.
You want to ask that one again, and then you can have a think about it.
That'd be cheating, I think.
Okay.
But I mean,
I'll
it's
come up
up
with a
to
different
you.
one that's a bit easier. 10 seconds.
Mhm.
I want you to name 3 districts of Krakow.
Oh, geez. So we got the Kazimierz district. Oh no! It's too much pressure. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not very good at under pressure.
I think that's a surprise. Now, if I
Yeah.
asked you that over a beer,
Yeah.
you'd probably be able to come out. For example, where do you live?
I live in the Podgorze district, and then
Well,
you
that's
have
one.
you have the
Yeah.
what is this? Starts with the Z, the one. Yeah.
Zwierzyniec.
So we got Podgorze, here we go, Zabłocie. Yeah. We've got Kazimierz, Delniki. Of course, I should have known that one.
Yeah, there's a couple that jump out that for me are sort of slam dunks. Nowa Huta.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah,
I should have
know.
known
And how
that.
about this one? What about Stare Miasto?
Oh God, we should probably. Can we not
No, we can't.
include? I think my partner's gonna kill me if I didn't mention Nowa Huta.
No, well, listen, John. This is staying on the record. This is in the can. 1-0 to me. Next week, you got the chance for your revenge.
I was going to ask David, Peter, now as the ignorant American here in this podcast, could you tell us how to make a proper tea? And I would like to see maybe Peter and David, perhaps you'll have even different opinions, which will cause a bit of chaos. So let's find out.
Right. Okay. So since Peter is here, I would say move to Glasgow, and so that when you turn on the tap, you get soft water and not hard water.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right. Which is quite
Yeah.
important, because that means that you're much less likely to get scum on the top of.
That's what causes it.
Okay.
Yes, it's hard water. So the water you use is very important, and if you're in England, then you just can't change that really.
No.
So that's the first thing. Second thing, well, it is good to make the tea in a pot. And if you're going to make it in a pot, well, you want it to be as warm as possible. So first of all, you have to warm the pot.
Oh.
And you put some hot water in, and then you add the tea. Now, if you're being posh, then you won't use tea bags. But in the majority of homes, there are tea bags. So you put in one for each person that is drinking, and one for the pot, theoretically. But in practice, then whether you do that or not is up to you. Now, what we used to do in Scotland, although sometimes if it's done properly, it works. If it's not done properly, then you can go very wrong with it, is you can you've got to have the right type of teapot, but you put the tea actually on the cooker for a minute or so, and that's called infusing the tea. Now, you don't boil it, but you kind of bring it to a boil.
Just
And
before.
yes, and then what you do is you put the tea on the table, and you put a tea cozy on the top of it. And
do you know what that is,
you
John? A tea
wait.
cozy?
No, a tea cozy.
Yeah,
tea
I'm afraid,
cozy,
David, you're going to have to
yes.
explain.
Well, it is literally what it says. Yeah.
Okay.
It is something which actually might look like a jumper, as in a sweater. A sweater. Yeah, it might
I'm
look like
thinking knitted at this point.
Yes,
To
could
keep-
be. Yes.
To keep the tea nice and warm, then I imagine.
Yes.
Not,
I have one which is actually has people, a scene from the Highland Games, for example, and that goes over the teapot until the tea has brewed.
Okay.
And then, what do you do next then, Peter?
Well, I have to say, John's question was awesome, and I thought it would maybe take you 15 seconds, and I'd have the floor for the rest of the hour. What do you do next? I mean, you've got to, I presume, pour it into the cup at some stage. Otherwise, what are we
Milk
doing
first
here?
or tea first?
I don't believe there's a hard and fast rule. I'm going to leave that one open to personal choice. Maybe I don't want to divide the audience. We've got enough reason to hate each other in this world, and I don't want to introduce another one. But I would say, if you're asking me personally, I would think milk second, because I think you can judge the color a bit better if you're adding the milk. What about you, David?
Well, actually, in practice, we tend to do just exactly what you said. We put the milk in second. But
when you say we, is this like a team thing? What are we talking about here? I thought it was just you on your. I didn't realize you had an army of helpers.
I'm thinking of my family. That's what we'll do. That's what
okay.
Do.
As a patriarch, though, they obviously follow your lead. I would expect that.
Well,
I want to answer Jonathan's question, but I don't. There simply isn't time, other than to say I don't really drink tea, which is a terrible answer. And also, the tea I do drink, I buy from a very specific retailer in the Netherlands. And I went in there once, and an Indian guy who I'd never met before in my life, loveliest man you'd ever imagine, he came over to me, saw I was the only other customer, and he said, "You really have to buy this tea. It'll change your life." And on his recommendation, I bought it, and I've never drunk any other tea other than that in my adult life. So, he wanted to pass on
listening.
I hope so, and I hope the retailer's listening as well, so we can get them to sponsor this. Definitely.
Fingers crossed.
Polish thing of my week.
Peter, tell me, what is your Polish thing of the week?
That's a great question, John, and I'm so glad you asked it. So mine is I took a little trip to Wilanów at the weekend. You lived in Warsaw, right? You've been there. Beautiful palace, lovely grounds.
Yep.
So we drove there and we crossed over the little bridge that takes us across the Jeziorko Czarnkowskie, which was frozen. And we saw some people like walking on the ice with their kids and stuff. And, bloody idiots, I thought, idiots. So we walked along the footpath on the other side of the water from the palace at Wilanów and saw that the lake was frozen. So I was standing there thinking, where do all the ducks go when the ponds and lakes freeze? And I was wondering about the welfare of the carp. And you know what? I thought, wouldn't it be a great idea if we just walked across the ice to the palace?
Oh God!
Having seen those idiots doing it, so we walked across the ice, and it was really thick. I mean, people were ice fishing, drilling holes in the ice, and got to the edge, and I just basically the ice broke. Literally, no warning, no cracking, no sounds, nothing, no movement. I just fell in right down to my waist. Thank God, down to my waist.
To your waist.
Yeah, it was bloody deep there. It could have been, over my head if it had been in the middle. What an idiot, though. Join the group of idiots that I saw earlier. But thankfully it was near the edge, so I hit the bottom, hit the soft mud
Okay.
at the bottom before I went
Oh.
fully submerged. But I was like half an hour away from the car, and it was like minus something. So, but I had to walk back to the car with absolutely soaked wet. And by the time I got back to the car, my jeans were frozen like two metal tubes, clanging as I was walking along.
Okay,
dear
so
me.
this was a solid fall into the lake. This wasn't just getting your feet wet. This was half your body.
Yep, absolutely. You know what the lesson was that I learned?
What was it? Did you learn anything?
Yes, don't be a fucking idiot. In my lessons.
That is a good lesson.
Mhm.
I
One to take
appreciate
away
you
there.
sharing that.
Yes, but I just want to clear up just one final bit of controversy for
Please
this
do.
week. The wearing of my favorite pair of socks, John.
What have you done to the pair of socks that I so kindly gifted you before my departure from Warsaw to Krakow?
Well, a bit of background was we were squash partners, so the socks you gave me had squash rackets depicted on them. I feel bad, but every time I play squash with anyone other than you, I make sure I wear them. It's kind of like it makes me feel a little bit unfaithful. It makes me feel dirty, but I miss you.
Yeah, absolutely. I miss our games, and we'll have to play another one here at some point to celebrate our about half year of episode creating on this podcast. What do you think?
I think a game of squash would be a fabulous way to celebrate a half year of episode making, John.
You like that grammar structure?
No. Have you heard of the Dangerous Sports Club, John?
Dangerous Sports Club, tell us.
Well, it was a group formed in Oxford in the UK that specialised in high-risk and surreal activities. I actually met one of the members, a guy called Hugo Spowers, who was quite a character, let's say, classic sort of English eccentric from the upper classes. This Dangerous Sports Club pioneered surrealist skiing, and beginning in 1983, it held events in St. Moritz in Switzerland, in which competitors were required to devise a sculpture mounted on skis and then ride it down the mountain. I guess alcohol was involved at some point. It has to be, doesn't it? So entries included a grand piano.
A grand piano?
Yeah. I think it was actually being...
time?
Yeah, I think it was actually being played on the way down as well. I wish I was smart enough to think of an appropriate piece of music for them to be playing. I may add it in the post-record edit, to make me sound more intelligent.
Flight of the Bumblebees, maybe.
That would be very appropriate. Also a Louis XIV dining set.
Okay. Wow. Fancy.
Why not? And an 8-man boat.
An 8-man boat. That sounds so dangerous, but fun.
Unfortunately, the Dangerous Sports Club met its end when the authorities in St. Moritz refused to let them take their London double-decker bus down the slopes. That was the end of that. That was the end of that.
That was the last straw.
That was the last straw. Have you ever watched the film Cool Runnings, John?
I have.
Yeah, you know all about the bobsleigh. You call it bobsled? Is that an American thing?
Yeah, exactly. Bobsled.
Mm-hmm.
Bob's your uncle.
What do you remember about that film? Do you remember the nation that was featured in that?
I actually remember absolutely nothing, Peter. I'm glad you asked. What about you?
Yes, I've never watched the film, but I did my research. I remember when I looked it up on Google. No, let's start again. Have you ever watched the film Cool Runnings, John?
I have not.
No, me.
So I'm sorry. I'll do that again.
We can make this into super mix one day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, start again.
Yeah.
Now you're clicking on something. What is it? That clicking? Is it like a mouse
sorry,
or something?
A pen. Yeah. I'm thinking.
I had to take out so many clicks from the edit.
Really?
Like,
no.
It took me about. All right, you cost me maybe 3 hours of my life individually, isolating the clicks and then muting.
You have to understand, I'm not 108 years old like you, so I have to move. I can't conserve my energy like a tortoise.
And we have ink pens, so they don't click anyway.
Yeah,
We have
exactly.
feathers, don't we? Ostrich feathers. So we're talking Polish traditions here. You know, it's all right for the Poles to laugh at themselves and poke fun at themselves. It's been a
Sure.
little bit less comfortable when it comes from somebody from outside of outside of the country. But
Mhm.
I want any Poles listening to this to understand that this is done with great affection, hand on
Absolutely.
heart, great affection. So we're looking at quintessential Polish behavior, and there's nothing more quintessentially Polish than when you walk on a Polish beach and you can't see the sea because there's a bloody great wall of paravans in the way.
Oh, so what are those? Explain to us, Peter. What do you think when you see these?
Yeah. Well, you know, we have them in the UK, but I guess our wind isn't quite as biting as the wind that sweeps across the Baltic Sea. So, you know, we're effectively claiming our part of the beach by putting in 4, 5 wooden poles strung together with a piece of material, bright coloured material, and collectively they make quite a screen, quite a colourful screen.
Okay, so what you're explaining is they sort of create this barrier, and it is now their spot for the remaining day.
Absolutely, real estate claimed. You know, they're kings of their sandy castles. There, yeah, they don't just lie on a you know, anywhere on a crowded beach. They've got to sort of divide that little piece off for them. Paravanning, you know, it does sound like something that you know, is an extreme sport involving being towed behind an aeroplane or something. But
How interesting. Okay, and have
yeah.
you been able to partake in this?
Yes, I have, John. I have had a go at that. I was right up near the Polish-German border last summer on the Baltic coast, and I mean, there probably won't be many Germans listening to this, but I have to say, on a slightly quiet voice, I thought it was the Germans that had a reputation sort of being the first to plant their flag into the ground. But I mean, you know, certainly in terms of sort of poolside towel wars, shall we say. But this is a battle where I really do. I back Poland. I back Poland chances to prevail over the weaker German forces when it comes to
Okay.
paravanning.
Okay. So you have a bit of experience. I still haven't had the chance, but I've seen it, and it is quite remarkable. So
Yes.
do these usually include colors, these walls, or what can you tell me about the patterns?
Yeah, they're beautiful. You know, they're all
Mhm.
seasidey colours and bright
Okay.
colours, rainbows. But, you know, John, in my opinion, there's nothing more beautiful than the sun and the sea and the beach. But, you know, if you're going to spoil it with something, you might as well spoil the view with something brightly coloured. Um, but there is a strategy involved as well. It's not just random plonking down.
Okay.
You know, I think, you know, the early bird gets the worm. So distance to the water, if you can keep that to a minimum, then you're in a pole position there right at the front. Um,
So the closer you are, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you obviously need to move around as the sun changes its position over the course of the day.
Okay, I think I know what I'm going to be doing this summer. Then I feel more prepared now.
Yeah. Do you want a couple of inside tips?
Oh yes, please.
Close enough to the pier
Okay.
and far enough from the screaming toddlers. That's the ideal place. Sorry to
Very
all
good.
you parents of young kids out there. We love
Yeah,
them. We love
nothing against children, huh?
Absolutely not.
Mhm.
We were ones ourselves. And then the other thing is just try not to sit next to that family that have got disco polo blaring out from a radio.
Yes, disco polo. I think we're going to have some good conversations about this in the near future as well.
You're suggesting a whole episode about that.
Oh, absolutely, disco polo all the way. Oh, this is how we lose Polish listeners.
This is how we gain Polish listeners. In my test broadcast, I interviewed my son about what he loved about Poland, and he chose a bit of disco polo as his favorite piece of Polish music.
Did he?
It wasn't bad, but that's on my terms. You know, when I play it out for my own listening, it's when you force it on other people, it becomes a little less socially acceptable.
All right. Sounds good. I think we might have to change some of our music background disco polo on this podcast.
Yeah, let's do that. But then a bit of a cliche then, isn't it?
So going back to paravanning, what do you think? What else can we include?
Well, I would say, yes, it is a full-on sport. And,
Okay.
it's got all the elements of a sport. You observe, you plan, you
Yeah.
defend. And at the end of the day, the winner emerges victorious with their own slice of Baltic sand.
Exactly, and a bit of sunburn. Not
And
as
a bit of
bad as
sunburn.
not as bad as the British. I know you guys come out looking like lobsters, but a bit of sunburn.
Yeah, we're known for that, aren't we?
Yeah.
By the way, it all starts again the following day. So never underestimate a Pole and their paravan. It's serious business.
All right, thanks. Thank you for that.
Feeling shortchanged by this episode? Don't worry. You can take it out on us by leaving a comment on our socials. Search for Pole-ish on Blue Sky, X, Facebook, and YouTube, or fill out the form on our webpage at
pole-ish.eu.
Where you can also read all our blogs going back to the very dawn of time, even before Peter's birth.
Wow, well, by the very dawn of time, you mean the very dawn of 2026, to be honest. Got an idea, suggestion, complaint, or compliment? Then email us at
peter@pole-ish.eu.
Thank you for listening. And until next week, remember, we're not Polish.
Polish. We're
We're
Polish.
Polish.
Polish. We started laughing before
One day
we
we'll get
said
it.